Hello and welcome to the Just About Community Podcast. I'm Smokey Lyle, aka Horror and Cats, on the platform and on YouTube, and I'm joined by Lana Tyra. I'm a creator of all things horror on YouTube. Lana, would you like to go into what you create?
I create mostly Final Fantasy content, especially Final Fantasy XIV, which includes guides and housing videos and just random thoughts about the game.
She's a cat lady. She's a cat lady on
I
the Final
am
Fantasies.
I am a cat lady indeed.
So this podcast is about 21st century heroines, and originally it was going to be of television and film, but after noodling on it for a little while, I think we should open it up to video games as well, because especially in the last 10, 15 years, the storytelling and video games as a medium to convey like a really powerful story and portray excellent, flawed, and deep characters has come such a long way. So I think we should include video games in this podcast as well.
It's like a good idea.
Cool. Well, originally, when I had first thought of 21st century heroines, it was based on one person in one movie. Of course, I've thought of more after the fact, but I want to talk about Sienna Shaw from Terrifier 2. Terrifier is a horror series, obviously being a horror creator, that's where my head is at most of the time. And Terrifier 2 is a connected but ultimately a different path that the creator wanted to go on. The first Terrifier movie is essentially, it was just a Halloween movie. Not Halloween as in Michael Myers, but Halloween as in the holiday, with some truly horrific things in it. It's one of those movies that wants to just shock you. And it didn't have a whole lot of story to it, aside from there's this killer Puro, I'm not sure exactly how to pronounce that, but like the Italian mime clown running amok and stalking these two particular characters from a diner earlier in the movie. But Terrifier 2 brought in a whole bunch of lore, and Sienna Shaw is the fictional heroine of Terrifier 2. She's played by Lauren Lavera, who is a super talented martial artist. I haven't seen Iron Fist, but I think she was in Iron Fist. And mostly before Terrifier 2 was just a stunt double. So really behind the scenes, really unsung hero. She was actually the stunt double for Anya Taylor-Joy in Split. And considering that she came from that kind of background where the acting isn't exactly something you have to worry about. It's more like body acting. Yes, you've got to be able to, if anything, convey more with your body and people not being able to see your face. It's kind of how the stunt double gig goes. But her acting brings such a great level of depth to this Sienna Shaw character, who in the fiction of the movie, it kind of comes to light that it's a classic. It's like it's a bit of the classic fantasy chosen one trope, but it's not only that. She her dad was a comic book artist, or just a graphic designer who dabbled in comic books as like a hobby, and he created this character called Angel for his daughter, and she's like this Valkyrie type character with a sword, and she's got the braids, really Nordic hairstyle, and gold armor, angel wings. Very cool character, and it turns out that it was kind of a prophecy for Sienna to face off against Art the Clown. It's a little goofy, but I don't know. So basically, before Sienna's figured all this out, she has been creating, because his father's passed away, so she's been creating this amazing cosplay of Angel, the character her father made for her. And so she puts it on to go to a Halloween party and ends up fulfilling the prophecy of facing down Art the Clown while dressed as Angel. And one of the things that I don't really understand how they did it. It's kind of the Bayonetta syndrome. I don't know if you remember when Bayonetta came out, but Bayonetta is a leggy, very, I don't want to say sensual, but you would be tempted to say sexualized character, but nothing about her character actually bows to any of the male gaze, so to speak. Like, there's no one in the games who are drooling over Bayonetta. It's just kind of who she is. It's her style. And they kind of get that lightning strike with Sienna Shaw. So the outfit is, like a I don't know, like a Spartan type armored skirt, and classic video game, it's just a metal bra armor. As a fan of fantasy games, I'm sure you are familiar with how drastically feminine armor differs from male armor.
Yes, it's not even that bad in Final Fantasy, but if you try to play like Korean MMORPGs, then yes, you totally get the metal bikini and stuff like that.
Right. Oh yeah. And it's funny, like even in Gears of War, these guys, I think it was Gears of War 4 where the character of Kate first gets introduced, and when they go to Marcus Phoenix's house, he's got a room full of armor, and the three dudes, they wear half a monster truck on them, but they're like, "Here, Kate," and it's literally just a metal bra version of the male armor. And it's like, you guys are in the military. This is supposed to be military armor. But anyway, so that trope of like skin showing with feminine armor is in there, but I don't know. Like I said, they kind of strike the same lightning that Bayonetta had, where, yeah, she's, again, a leggy. I mean, her outfit is her hair, and some of her attacks are her hair coming off of... It's a very odd game, but lots of reviewers found that it doesn't so much divert the male gaze, but it subverts it. So it's like, that it's hard to put into words. I was trying to write out what exactly I mean last night, because this is like my favorite heroine of the 21st century is Sienna Shaw from Terrifier 2. I really can't put my finger on how they dodged the bullet of sexualizing her by putting her in this costume. I think it might have to do with the fact that she's, again, like honoring her father and this, like, carrying on this character that he made for her, this angel character, by making the cosplay accurate to the character he wrote for her. But I just think it's a great character. And like I said, Lauren Lavera brings this full-chested acting to it, because it's a horror movie and there's some really nasty stuff, especially in Terrifier 3. That unfortunately the angel outfit doesn't come back in Terrifier 3, which I was genuinely disappointed about. I hope it comes back in Terrifier 4, because it looks like Terrifier 3 kind of ended in a bit of a cliffhanger. So I hope that she's going to actually make a real one, not one that's made of polystyrene or whatever cosplay outfits are made of. Like, she's actually going to forge the angel armor to face down Art the Clown the final time. But the punishment that she goes through in Terrifier 2 and 3, she just conveys it with such realistic human reactions. So Sienna Shaw, Lauren Lavera, kind of one and the same of my appreciation of this particular 21st century heroine. I'm sure there are more fleshed out heroines and whatnot, but as far as horror, like the genre that I'm all in all the time, Sienna Shaw is completely like on a mountain. She's on her own. There are, like you might say, we love there are plenty of other horror heroines that take on incredible odds and be the final girl and whatnot. But I don't know, Sienna Shaw, very unique, uniquely cool and empowering, I want to say.
Don't know much about horror movies, but I think I will have to have a look.
Oh, I don't I don't know. If you don't watch a lot of horror movies, then I don't think you're gonna want to jump in with Terrifier. Terrifier. Watching Terrifier 2, I was just like, wow, this is really unpleasant. But Terrifier 3, there's actually a scene in it that is so wildly unpleasant that even behind the movie magic, the actor who played Art the Clown almost couldn't film it because it was so horrible. So I don't know. If you're not a big fan of horror, Terrifier 2 might be a stretch. But I can send you some screenshots of like the Sienna Shaw, the cosplay, the angel outfit and whatnot.
That would be great, so I can see it, because it's very interesting what you said, but I can't picture it because I've never seen it.
Right. Yeah. I'll after we're done recording, I'll IM you a couple of the shots, because I love her so much that I have like 12 cycling wallpapers of Lauren Lavera being like Sienna Shaw in the angel outfit. Some of them are behind the scenes, like she's like production photos and whatnot, and some of them are actually from the movie. So it's my favorite thing ever. Apparently, I just Sienna Shaw is dope.
To admit that I haven't watched a lot of movies lately. COVID might have an impact on it, because we used to go more into the cinema before COVID, but not really since then. And when we went a few times, it was a bit disappointing. I thought it was more or less okay when we watched a few movies, but my partner really didn't like them, and I don't really find anything what I would want to watch, because now I'm even scared to go and see any Marvel movie, because I don't like the way they taken it with that multiverse stuff. So that's probably it's for someone, but it's not for me.
I feel it. I have actually, aside from WandaVision, I have not seen any Marvel, what is it, Phase 4 content. I stopped after Endgame, and I was just so not burned out, but fulfilled by the culmination of the story. I was just like, I don't want them to start any more, a whole new arc or whatever. So I haven't seen any Marvel for quite some time either.
Yeah, so my favorite heroine will be from video games. And probably it won't be a surprise to you that it will be from Final Fantasy.
Can I guess which one?
You can.
Okay. I think, from what little I know about Final Fantasy VII, there are 2 female characters who do like fighting. I want to say Jessie and Tifa. So I think Tifa. Is that right?
Oh, it's not.
No, really? Okay. Do tell.
No, it's Aris.
Really? Okay. I do know her.
And I will tell you why, and it will be surprising. Because I already liked her when I played the original game in 97.
Mm-hmm.
She was my favorite character from it, but I wouldn't be able to tell you why. I just liked her, and if you asked me in 97 who I wanted Cloud to get together with, my answer would have been Aeris, because I liked the character. And only when I played Remake did I understand why I preferred her over Tifa.
Okay.
Tifa is such a cool character, very strong, kicks ass. She was the cool girl, I wasn't. So I couldn't find anything relatable in her, because anything what she represented was all the cool girls in the school who were bullying me.
Aw. And you were the kind, shy flower girl?
I was the quiet, the weird one who would just want to talk about cats all day.
Aw, see, that's my kind of person.
And in remake, they extended one of the scenes from the original game, the train graveyard, which is pretty much about a place between realities. So you see a scene there where Iris looks back onto her childhood memories, where she was playing hide and seek with kids, but only she could see these kids because they were spirits of the departed children.
Mm-hmm.
And she didn't understand why they were not responding to her. So she constantly felt left alone, and
Oh,
and
interesting.
that's pretty much what was my childhood, because no one wanted to play with me.
And so you're like, oh, you're all ghosts anyway. You're not real.
And now that I've been through my fair share of difficulties and hardships in life, I can appreciate Tifa a lot more, because if you read the accompanying books to the game and you learn the past of Tifa and Aris and how they got to be the person we meet in the games, Tifa didn't have an easy life.
Mm-hmm.
So now I can relate to her a lot more, but I think when I originally played the game, it just clicked with me to relate with the character who was the more like me. And probably this is what we would need in any heroine in movies or games, who are like us, who we can relate to. And of course, that will be dependent on people, because everyone has a different background and a different life. But probably this is why I don't like all these female-led superhero movies, because of course you can watch it and enjoy it, and it's a cool character, but it's not going to be someone you can really relate to, because there's nothing similar in you.
Because they're most for the most part, especially in Marvel, they're all beautiful, cool, and extremely powerful.
Yes, and if you are none of that, then you will
Oh,
feel like this movie is not for you.
yeah.
So if you find a character who has at least one very significant similar attribute to you, then you will be able to relate to that character. And if that character is cool in something else, then you will start thinking that, oh, she could do that, so maybe I can do it as well.
Have have you seen? It's not a 21st century movie, but have you seen The Net with Sandra Bullock?
I have, yes.
Oh, okay. I feel like she is in that one. You said cool in some way, and she's like a programmer, right? And she uses her programming skills to deconstruct this big conspiracy against her. Because it's been so long since I saw that movie. But as soon as you said kind of like a character who resonates with a certain aspect of your personality, being, I would say maybe her for me, I thought she was very cool because she's kind of like the shut in, very smart. Does she leverages her skill, which is not exactly a combat skill, she's a programmer, but she leverages her skill to reach the end, take down the bad guys. And one fun fact about that movie is I think it's an Apple Expo or a Mac Expo or something at the very end, and my parents were actually there when they were filming it.
Whoa, that's cool.
Yeah, they're not in it. Like I've watched that movie when I was younger, and they told me about that. I watched that movie like 500 times. And they're not actually in the movie, but they were there when they were filming it, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, I did like that movie, and it's interesting that you brought it up, because when everyone was against girls around computers and
Mm.
learning programming and all that kind of stuff, I could just point at that movie that, look at that.
Look at Sandy Bullock. She's a computer badass. Also,
But
Wolfenstein 3D was the first game I have conscious memory of playing, and I loved that she was playing that because that movie's from like mid 90s. Like whenever Wolfenstein 3D came out, it was about when the movie came out, and she was playing Wolfenstein 3D in that opening scene. And I was like, I've played that.
I can give you another very good example from the 20th century.
Yeah, go ahead.
What type of heroines we would need.
Sure.
Because in Star Trek, which was filmed in the 60s and 70s.
Mm-hmm.
There was a black lady,
Uhura, yep.
Uhura, a communication officer on the Enterprise.
The first
And
interracial kiss on television.
yeah, but more importantly, a leading role.
Mm-hmm.
She had voiced lines in almost every episode. And there was a little girl who we know as Whoopi Goldberg,
Mm-hmm.
who was sitting at home on the sofa watching Star Trek, and then she saw this character who was like her, and she was running up and down the house screaming, calling everyone to come down to look at the telly because there's a black woman in it and she's not a maid.
Yeah, I have heard this story, but I'd forgotten about it. Yeah.
And that was the encouragement for her to become an actress. And then she actually got a role in Star Trek Deep Space Nine.
Oh, I see. I haven't seen a lot of Star Trek. I did not know that she got a role in Deep Space Nine.
There is a bartender in the station. So she's there in a few episodes, not a lot. But she's kind of like a confidant to the characters. So a lot of them go to her for advice because she will have always something clever to say.
Whoopi Goldberg has big bartender energy, like that sage everyman advice kind of.
Yeah, so that's a huge impact given how life was for these people in the 60s and 70s. So if we are looking at what we would need today, we would need to look for a similar big impact.
I fully agree. I know exactly what you're saying. That's what. So people, not my kind of people, but they say that inclusion is what are the dumb things they say? They representation. They misinterpret it as an agenda. But like you were saying, Uhura wasn't there because she was black. She was there and she was black. It's just that's the purest form of representation. And I have a great example of that. Give me a second to actually. I didn't write this one down because it's a trans man, so not a heroine, but great representation of just it's there. And no one's drawing attention to it. It's not part of the character's plot. It's just a trans character. Is the first season of Goosebumps on Hulu. Miles McKenna. Miles McKenna is a trans man who plays James in Goosebumps. And like I said, it's just like Uhura, not there because she's not there because she's black, not there to be black. She's there and she happens to be black. And that's exactly how Miles McKenna plays the best friend of the lead character in the first season of Goosebumps in 2023. Just that's how representation should be done. You don't have to draw attention to it. If you just put it in because it's normal, then somebody somewhere like Whoopi Goldberg is going to say that person is being treated like a person in just a normal situation, and that inspires me.
Exactly what we would need. So if someone would want to make an impactful movie for the future generation of girls and ladies, they would need to look at how the world is today, what females are struggling with, and make a movie so the little girl from your neighborhood, when she watches it, she would want to live in that world.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 100%. You're making me feel a little silly for choosing a character in a metal bikini now.
Hey, nothing wrong with metal bikini. I liked Leia in her metal bikini.
Oh yeah, that one. That one is pretty. Back when Just About had a, I think it was a favorite Star Wars character, bounty. I picked Leia. Obviously not a 21st century heroine, but I picked Leia because that was one of my first exposures to a strong female character. Because I'm I was a 90s kid, but I watched Star Wars really early on because it's appropriate. There's nothing terribly inappropriate in Star Wars except maybe the metal bikini. But the arc of Leia, like in 4, she's a princess in trouble, but she end up shooting anyone in the first one? I can't remember if she grabs a blaster and shoots somebody.
She does.
She
shoots.
She caps a couple stormtroopers, right?
Yeah. She's not shooting at the stormtroopers. She's shooting at the door to close it.
That's right.
So the stormtroopers can't keep shooting.
That's right. So yeah, she's like a princess in distress, but she's not completely helpless. And then in 5, she's still a princess, but she's on the front lines, and she does do some shooting in that one. And then by 6, she's using her own bondage chain to strangle Jabba the Hutt, and she's shooting everybody and getting into space motorcycle races in the forest. She's just so cool. She was, like I said, one of the first strong female characters that I was exposed to, and it shaped how I thought and think about women. Like, yeah, women badass, love them. So
Funny that you mention a princess in distress, because I was never really into the Disney princess stuff.
Mm-hmm.
There are 2 of them who I liked. One was Belle from Beauty and the Beast.
Oh, yeah.
Because, again, she wasn't really a princess. She was just your average village girl who loved books, and everyone thought that she was weird for liking books.
Nerd.
And, yeah. How dare you to be a nerd?
And she goes to the mat to save her dad, too. She's tough.
Yep. And the other one was Megara from Hercules. Because she actually has a line where she says that, yes, I'm a damsel, and yes, I'm in distress, and I can handle it.
That's right, yeah. Hercules is one of mine and my friend Christy's favorite, like, mutual Disney movies. It's one of those movies that when we're visiting, because we're, low-key adults, we just want to sit around with the cats for the most part. When we're visiting, we're just like, what do we want to watch? I don't know. Okay, so Hercules. Mulan is one of the coolest characters from Disney for me. In fact, it's probably my favorite Disney movie because it's this tough, determined woman in a world where people don't think women can be tough or determined, and she just proves everybody wrong. Love it.
That's a very good example.
I shouldn't have made this 21st century heroines, because we're all the ones that we end up being like, well, I'll tell you what, from 1997 there was I don't think anybody's going to hold us to the 21st century thing, so I'm not too worried about it.
Maybe it shows us a pattern that we are struggling to find a good example from the 21st century.
That's really true.
Because there are a lot of movies where they are making remakes or like spin-offs where they change the male lead character to a female lead character. Mm-hmm. So there was like the Sherlock Holmes series where Sherlock Holmes was a female.
Mm-hmm. The Equalizer did that too. The show The Equalizer. They made...
and I don't know what I think about them. I'm not really fan of it.
Interesting. I wouldn't say I'm not a fan of it, but I do think that if, like, when characters, when they remake or reboot something and a character's ethnicity changes, everybody freaks out. And I think, like, when they said they were going to make Idris Elba James Bond, like, what? Everybody's like, no, James Bond is white. Well, where exactly does that matter? In the books, in the films, where, aside from obviously being, the trope of Bond girls and that classic masculine, dare I say toxic masculine energy that I think the Daniel Craig films finally pulled away from. So if we're jumping off of the Daniel Craig James Bond, why can't James Bond be black? I don't understand what is so wrong about that. There's nothing about the character that says James Bond has to be white. And if Sherlock Holmes was based back in when was Sherlock Holmes written? Like the 1800s? Late 18s? Early 19s? When did Sir Arthur Conan Doyle write his works?
We need to do a quick Googling.
Yeah. Let me check.
Yeah, I think Idris Elba would have been really great, James Bond.
Yeah.
And maybe with that character, it wouldn't be that hard to tailor it to have a female lead, because technically, like, that's his name, but his title is the 007.
Right.
So you could make an female spy earning the 00 license, which is the license to kill.
Mm-hmm.
Give them a completely different name. They are not related to James Bond in any way. But then the problem is, how do you sell that? How do you label it as part of the James Bond franchise when the entire franchise has a male character's name on it?
Yeah. I mean, for that one, I think it would be more difficult to, like, swap male for female, but it's a tangential example. But like I said, Idris Elba, there's absolutely no reason James Bond can't be black. That's what I'm saying. But going back to, it was Lucy Liu who plays Sherlock Holmes in the show, right? And it's a modern show, isn't it? Like, it's set in modern times?
It is.
Okay.
Yeah.
So switching Sherlock to be female in modern times, I don't think terrible stretch. I'm not sure exactly if Sherlock is a male predominant name. It's not exactly a popular name anymore, but if you were writing back in the time of Sherlock Holmes, which is late 1800s, early 1900s, yes, the idea of a female brilliant detective running around being gawked at by all the men of Scotland Yard, like, wow, you're so smart, you're a genius, that would basically never happen in 1900, you know? So modern Sherlock Holmes, I don't think it's too much of a stretch to switch for a female lead. But I'm interested to know, like, what else has done that? You said there are a couple examples, and I'm aside from Queen Latifah being in the Equalizer show as McCall, I can't think of any others except for the Lucy Liu one.
I'm not sure what other example was there.
Okay.
Where they actually swapped a character directly, or when it just went on the pattern of, like, how we had Captain America and then they created Captain Marvel.
Oh, I see like almost a counterpart.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So to me, it feels like it would be more beneficial if they were completely original ideas and not a sort of spin-off of something where we already have the image of a male lead character, because then maybe not consciously, but you will be looking for the same characteristics in the female character as well, just because they are placed into that setting.
Mm-hmm. I see what you mean. You're saying instead of replacing existing characters for female representation, characters should be designed from the ground up for female representation.
Like, a good example where it was not like a spin-off, but a lot of people were unsure about when Star Trek Voyager came out, and the Starship's captain was female.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people didn't know at first what to do with it. I wasn't sure if I will like it or not, but the character was not like any other Starship captain. She clearly had her own personality, her own strengths, and actually she was keeping to the Starfleet regulations a lot better than Kirk ever did.
Yeah, Kirk was a clown, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah. So if you were looking for a example good Starship captain, that's what Janeway was.
Mm-hmm. Like I
And it's still
said,
in a setting where previously it was mostly male dominated role, but they managed to write a very strong character which didn't look like, oh, we are just placing a female in the captain's chair, but it will be just like any other captain.
yeah, I think that if you write a character, the barring stories that need to depend on that kind of like a gender politic or something like that, if you're writing the crew of is Star Trek. Star Trek is military. Are they military? They're technically military, aren't they? Star Command is that?
Yes, they are military, but all the conflicts are basically external. So
Right. It's because they're on an exploratory mission, but they are in the military, right?
yeah,
Okay. So yeah, if you're writing a cast of military personnel, you should be able to swap any aspect, any superficial aspect of those characters to get the story you want of alien encounters and ship problems and stuff like that to go. You should be able to gender swap them. They should be whatever race, basically any age, any of these kind of superficial things that people latch onto about not liking when people say, "Ooh, representation." Well, representation is easy. You just write the character and then hire an actor. In this case, I mean, like with again, if you're filling out a crew of military personnel in the far future, superficial aspects of that crew should be able to be swapped around however.
this is why I don't like a lot of these remakes where it seemed to be very forced. That we have to admit that certain stories were wrote in a different time, which, if not even written directly, but showcases a scenario where it's clear that it was male dominated or white dominated.
Right.
Some of them you can change in a way that you can be inclusive and you can make new characters in that world who will be fit with the current representation which we want to see in movies. But some of them are not going to change just because you change a original character in it to a different one. So in this case, if you want to show that type of movie or that type of environment, you need to write a new one up from the ground and not try to exploit the
existing
popularity
IP, yeah.
and the existing IP, just making it fit for a more diverse cast, because that's not going to go well. Just write a new one.
I agree. I think, well, I mean, just in general, I think the ringing of existing IPs is, I mean, it was getting ridiculous back in like 2005, and 20 years later, where I saw that they were remaking something this year. I can't remember what it was, but I looked at it and I was like, are you serious? You're rebooting that? It's like there's so many stories to tell. There are infinite stories to tell. But there's this fear that people won't want to read them or listen to them or watch them if they don't have some kind of connection already made to them. It's odd. It's really odd. I have an example that I thought, again, when I was kind of like writing out female like characters in games and movies. Have you played Mass Effect, the Mass Effect series?
Nope.
No. Okay, but you're aware of it, right?
Yes, I do know about it, and I've seen some gameplay, but I haven't played it myself.
So, Mass Effect 1 through 3, you have a straight choice between male Shepard and female Shepard. And I don't think I'm talking out of my butt when I say that basically the vast majority of players think female Shepard or Fem Shep is the superior character, despite the fact that the only thing that changes is the voice actor for the character. Now, I think that easily Jennifer Hale, who at this point, including upcoming roles, has over 500 credits. Vast majority, like overwhelming majority, being voice acting credits. She's a great voice actor, and she brings such attitude and gravitas to FemShep that I think is missing from Male Shepherd. But as far like from a representation standpoint, it's a really interesting example because it's player choice. Like they choose, do I want to be male shepherd or female shepherd? And then of course there are customization sliders and all that. Though I think both of the defaults for each character are pretty well designed. Like they chose good designs for the default, like sliders at middle or whatever it is. But nothing, to my knowledge, nothing substantial changes. Oops, sorry, I unplugged my headphones. Nothing substantial changes when playing through as male shepherd or female shepherd. Everything plays out the same. The only difference is your cutscenes, basically. And I think, potentially, a few of the romance options, because, I mean, fair enough, some people aren't into male shepherd and some people aren't into female shepherd. That's just that's just how the world works. So I thought that's an interesting one. I don't know if you have any takes on like how games specifically should they change if you choose male character or female character. Like there are games where absolutely nothing changes. You can be whatever character you want. Absolutely nothing changes. I think you like in Bloodborne, for instance, that's the first one that pops to mind. You can pick a female character that has a male voice, or a feminine character that has a masculine voice, I think maybe is how it's phrased. But Shepard particularly, well, with everybody overwhelmingly preferring FemShep, even though basically nothing changes in the game, I find that really interesting.
Is that because maybe a lot of players are male who would like to look at an attractive female character and not at a male's backside when they are playing? That
is entirely possible, and that's the primary reason that I played as FemShep. Because I would just, like, if I'm gonna, in third person, if I'm gonna look at a character, I would rather look at one that's nicer to look at, and I think women, for me, are nicer to look at than men. That's just, if I had a choice, that's what I would do. But having played both, I also think that despite nothing changing, dialogue staying exactly the same, FemShep just has a better gravitas. That's probably because of the voice actor, but I don't know. It's possible that it's just because people like to look at FemShep more than MaleShep, and they're just saying, well, I think it's a better character because she's got a nicer butt. But I don't know. That's why I wanted to talk about it. I wanted to get your take on it.
Voice acting can be definitely powerful.
Mm-hmm.
So it can really impact the take on the character. And for example, in FF14, there's been a lot of criticism towards one of the new characters in the new expansion.
Mm-hmm.
And the character is voiced in English by a trans voice actor.
Mm-hmm.
And I think she does an amazing job. And we don't really know if people dislike the character itself, if people dislike the voice, or they dislike the person behind the voice. Because these are three completely different reasons. But it's gone very wide, and it's very awful to look at, because she doesn't deserve any of that hate what she gets. She did a really good job, and in some places, like they redid the voice lines for one fight when a more difficult version of that fight came out, and it had a completely different strength to it, because the voice directing for that scene changed based on player feedback. And maybe that's another thing to consider, that it's one thing how the actor or actress plays with their voice, but they also get a direction. And maybe if the voice direction is not good for that character,
Yep.
then the voice actor also can't give the full potential to that character.
Yes, there was a huge blowback against the character who plays Ada Wong in the Resident Evil 4 remake. Lily Gao. She actually also played Ada in the newest Resident Evil movie, Welcome to Raccoon City, well, live action movie. And everybody was just like, God, she sounds so bland, so detached and unenergetic. And it's one of those things where I can just tell, because I know of Lily Gao's other acting roles. That's not who she is. That's not her default acting position. Detached, cold, monotone, somewhat monotone. That is almost certainly how Capcom directed her to be for the remake. So the amount of hate she got is astounding, even if it was her choice to play the character like that. But it's one of those things that, like you said, if you are aware of how these things are made, you can tell that's just, they were directed to act like that. I am curious though, what's the name of that character? I want to see who did the voice in Final Fantasy XIV.
The character's name is Vuklamat.
Ooh, could you spell that for me?
I can give you the name of the actress as well, if that helps.
Oh yeah, that'll probably be easier.
Senna Bayer.
What? One more time?
Senna Bayer.
Senna.
The simple
Senna Bayer. Okay. Sennbeyer.
Sena.
Okay. And then
Beyer.
Okay. Okay. I don't. I was wondering if I might know them, but I don't. Wuklamat. Okay. Wuklamat. Got it. Just looking to see if there anything else that I might know. Not looking like it. Fairly new to the scene though. Looks like the first credit was in 2018, so that's cool. Yeah. Yeah, it's really, really unfortunate. Like, I think that an actor, voice or otherwise, can bring a lot to a character, and it can be difficult to separate actor and character, especially if the actor has done something. Like, I can really not watch Mel Gibson movies anymore without kind of being like, ugh. But when the actor hasn't done anything except be who they are, and you just can't separate that from the character, is really just sad for 2025.
It is very sad. But to properly answer your question about should a character be different if you select it to be female or male, I think that depends on the type of the game. Mm-hmm. And if the focus is the character itself and their relationship with people and their character progression as a person, or if you want them to be in an environment where what is happening is more important. Because if it's like, I'm guessing Mass Effect in this regard is similar to Star Trek, where you have a scenery and the characters should be able to be replaced with whatever gender you want to put into those roles.
Well, it's honestly, I think that's why it's such a standout example to me, because it's actually not. Every crewmate has like their extremely unique and typically tumultuous background, and like some of them are based on who they were born as. You know, like there's a lot of, I call it space racism against certain races of aliens and whatnot that make up your crew. And like I said, Shepard's personality is dictated by you as the player. So FemShep, I guess, Shepard can be swapped from male to female, and the character evolution will go through whatever you put it through. But as far as the world around, like, your actions still will dictate the the crew and the NPC relationships. So it's like a mix. It's like a mix of what you said. Like the environment, the canvas of the story is grandiose, but there's also so much interpersonal stuff that happens. And it honestly, it might just be a credit to the creators for being able to connect all those little decisions into one big cohesive tree that makes sense no matter which branch you walk on.
It's interesting, but it probably also proves that any gender should be able to
fit in, yeah.
accomplish and fit in. And yes, this is your role, and doesn't matter who you are and where you come from, you can do this. So
yeah,
if it's this way, that's a really great writing achievement.
Yeah, very much so.
Because in some games where you are not just a faceless character, you will have certain aspects to the character which are male or female specific, like interactions or how they are treated by the NPCs around them. So if they paid attention to not have it this way, that's a really great writing.
Yeah, and then layering in such complex and robust player choice on top of that. Yeah, I mean, I'm I'm blanking on the creators of Mass Effect. Hold on a second, because they make the Dragon Age games too. BioWare. Oh, they made Knights of the Old Republic as well. They are masters of interactive storytelling. So it's I suppose it's not surprising that they were able to accomplish this. But what I do find really interesting, actually, Googling that just reminded me, the cover of Mass Effect has male Shepard on it, but everybody likes female Shepard. I think that's great.
The cover of Final Fantasy XIV has a male human-looking guy on the cover. Mm-hmm. The race is called Hyur in the game, but you can remove him from the picture and you can put your own character in there and nothing will change.
Excellent. As it should be.
So yeah.
So do you have any other heroines or any other aspects you'd like to call out, or should we move to comment corner? We got a couple of comments when we posted about feminine 21st century heroines.
Oh, comment corner. I love that. Let's do comment corner.
Comment corner. Okay. So, first off, we have from Murray, or as I read it every time I see his name, Murray! Because he's got all those extra letters. I love it. My picks from the top of my head in no order would be Lara Croft. Recent trilogy was fantastic, and with the movie with Alicia Vikander was terribly underrated in my opinion. Even loved the cheesy action flick starring Angelina Jolie. Great fun. I agree. I mean, Lara Croft is awesome, especially in the first and second games of the remake. I thought Shadow of the Tomb Raider, she plays like a little bit of a sociopath, but the what was it, 2013 reboot of Tomb Raider and then Rise of the Tomb Raider, really fleshed out character, really human, but also very superhuman because she goes through so much punishment. Talk about surviving punishment. Murray's got a couple here. He also says Wonder Woman, a tale of two ends of the quality scale, in my opinion, with Wonder Woman movie, with Gal Gadot being absolutely fantastic and a great story. And then, unfortunately, the sequel, 1984, is one of the worst movies I've ever seen. Also agree. Great in the Snyder cut as well. Wonder Woman is so... You know what? I think that's why I like Sienna Shaw so much, because her outfit, her metal bikini, is very similar to Wonder Woman, now that I'm thinking about it. And then the Wonder Woman movie, that had, like I was talking about, a female Sherlock Holmes would be treated so much differently in the early 1900s. But Wonder Woman is relatively differently treated, right? Like a woman in 1944, is it? But then everybody's like, whoa, she's a badass. And also, I think she's got the best theme song of all time.
Interesting that I don't have the same problem with her what I have with Captain Marvel, because the character just seems to be more
It's like Lady Superman, yeah.
like feels better written or more unique to me. It could be just because I haven't read like comics and I've just seen the movies, and Gal Gadot was absolutely amazing.
Right.
So that could be just down to the actors, but I did like her character.
I also wonder if maybe it's because Wonder Woman, Diana, hails from a lineage of powerful women, whereas Captain Marvel is just chosen by some space spirit, right? She's just kind of given this power, whereas
Could be.
Wonder Woman is like, I was born with this power. She's a demigod, isn't she?
Too much? Like, she was giving me like Sena vibes.
Yeah, Wonder Woman is dope. And then Murray's got a bunch. He says, I'll go through them a little faster now. Jill Valentine, absolutely, she's from Resident Evil, absolute badass, fearless of zombies, awesome leading lady in Resident Evil 3 Remake, which I know didn't get a lot of love, but I thought it was fantastic fun. Agreed, I think that Resident Evil 3 Remake, there was some disappointment in it because they cut out two really big fan favorite things, the clock tower and the gravedigger enemy. But Jill Valentine is a character. Oh my god, I'm blanking on who acted her in Resi 3, but she brought so much attitude to that character, and it's wonderful. Says Aloy from Zero Dawn and Forbidden West, the Horizon games. Great action, great story. I haven't played all of Horizon. The combat started getting a little samey for me, so I didn't get all the way through it. But Aloy is actually a fantastically written character. I don't know if you've played the Horizon games, but starting with her as like a young girl being outcast just because of, well, it was like where she was born or something, and having to go through this like warrior trial to be accepted into the tribe. Really cool. Surprisingly, for a game about robot dinosaurs, great story. Chloe Fraser from Uncharted reminds Murray of OG Lara Croft. Chun-Li from Street Fighter. It says martial arts badass and Interpol agent. Need I say more?
A lot of people didn't like the Uncharted game where you get to play with the ladies, but I enjoyed that. I think they have their own right and own space in that game.
Chloe and Nadine, is it?
Yep.
Yeah, I think both of them are awesome, strong. Like Nadine is the one who's buff as hell, right?
Yes.
Like she's the leader of like a paramilitary group, isn't she?
Yeah. She has the more military experience and the more fighty type, while Chloe is more the explorer.
Mm-hmm. I haven't played the Uncharted games, but I've seen playthroughs of them because I was interested in the story, and I really like Chloe and Nadine. I think they're very cool, especially in that game where it's the two of them. Their banter and their relationship is, I just think it's a gas. I love it.
And of course, I love Lara Croft as well. So that was a very good shout. I was so happy when I was playing those games as a little girl, because a video game where I can play as a girl.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Tomb Raider was the very first game I got on my PlayStation when I first got my PlayStation. And back then, I got into gaming really late for like people who are into gaming. Like everybody else my age had an NES when they were like 4, and that's how they got into gaming. But I got in really late. I was more of an outdoorsy kid. So PlayStation was my first console, and Tomb Raider was the game I got with it because that was all I could afford with my saved up allowance. I could only get one game, and I'd heard of this Tomb Raider. So I gotta say, that first level, the wolves scared the death out of me. Scared me to death is what I mean to say. But yeah, I still get this weird, like, you know, when you go places, maybe even eat a certain food or play a certain video game, watch a certain movie, you feel like your soul is teleported back into your childhood body, and you kind of feel small, and it doesn't necessarily feel good. That's what Tomb Raider feels to me. Like, Tomb Raider zaps me. It's weird. Like, I don't enjoy replaying the first Tomb Raider because I feel like a kid again, but like I actually feel like a kid again. Not in a good way.
That's funny.
Yeah, it's weird. Anyway, moving on. Jay Henkes, I want to say.
Yep.
I've seen a couple. There are two people with the Henkes, like not surname, but the latter part of their username. So I'm assuming it's an EVE Online or Elite Dangerous thing, because I've seen a couple people. Yeah. So if I'm saying it wrong, EVE Online / Elite Dangerous people, leave an angry comment. That's fine. I can deal with it. Jay Henkes says Katniss Everdeen. So from the Hunger Games series. I have some reservations about the last two films, but the character is very good and shows the female protagonist well on the big screen. Agreed. Katniss is awesome. She's, just from the very beginning, it's her little sister who's chosen for the Hunger Games, and she's just like, no, it's going to be me. That's big sacrifice, and then immensely determined and skilled.
That much of fun of Hunger Games. I did like the first movie, but probably the best way to put it that I had my reservations with the others.
Well, fair enough. I've actually only seen the first movie, so I don't know.
I like the base idea of her character. Mm-hmm. I'm not sure if the actress was the right choice.
Okay.
And the way how her relationship with Peter goes in the second movies, that's the part where I'm unsure about it.
Peter sucks. Peter's the worst.
Yeah,
Even
and
in
I
the first
think that
movie, I didn't like him.
His character has a print on how Katniss' character plays out as well, and that's what I don't like in it.
I gotcha. Well, then I won't cry over the spilled milk of not having seen anything but the first movie then. Finally, we've got Graybill, who says Lorraine Broughton. I believe that's how you'd say that. Lorraine Broughton, played by Charlize Theron in Atomic Blonde from 2017. I've actually not seen this movie. I know what it's about, though. Charlize Theron plays an MI6 spy, or a spy who's working with MI6, I believe. And the espionage is like just before the fall of the Berlin Wall. So really heavy human asset time of spy fare, you know? I haven't seen it, but I think that's one of the ones that was on my list and I just missed, so eventually I'm going to get back to it. I think it's an action movie, and those typically go down real smooth with like some pizza and beer.
I haven't seen it either, but it was also on my list and I also missed it.
Maybe we should watch party it. We should do a watch party.
Well, if we can find time for it, I would be down.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's all for Comment Corner. I think I wasn't sure how long just the two of us were going to be able to talk about this, but we've been going for over an hour. Good deal.
Yeah, nice. We made up for the missing members.
Yeah. So, yeah, this has been the Just About Community Podcast. I'm Smokey Lyle, a.k.a. Horror and Cats. That's how everybody's going to know me from the site and the YouTubes. This has been Lana Tyra, Final Fantasy guide and creator of guides and streams extraordinaire.
Thank you. It was a pleasure, as always.
As always.